Hello, welcome to RAVE. My name is Eric Smith. I'm the owner and president of Redwood Art Group. With me is Hannah Smith, our social media manager. And tonight we also have Linda Mariano, our marketing director. And we're really happy to have you joining us tonight. We had a great time in yesterday's session and the numbers showed it, with over 1,350 unique page views and 365 of you were new to joining RAVE and the Redwood Art Group. I think today's session is going to be just as captivating. It's International Sculpture Day, so we're going to highlight a few of our top sculptors in tonight's program. Along with our curators, RAVE Reveal, selections for top picks in today's hottest art categories.
And happy Saturday. Tonight is Collectors Night, and we've got a really fun lineup tonight, including some legendary artists like Al Diaz, Risk, Alexis Silk, Samir Samoon, just to name a few. I certainly can't wait. And we're even going to talk about those three letters everyone's been questioning, NFTs. So let's toast to everyone that made RAVE possible, our talented artists, and all of you art collectors watching us tonight.
Cheers.
Cheers.
To Pommery Champagne.
And we're toasting to Pommery Champagne, and we are honored to have them with us again as a sponsor. And the video you just watched is a sneak peek into their fabulous art installations in Maison Pommery in Champagne, France.
I can't wait to travel again and go see those installations myself. I have not seen them, but you know, down in the catacombs is where they have these great art installations, and all over the grounds. The whole property looks amazing. And in keeping to the memory of Madame Pomeroy, they host a new exhibition every year with many of the pieces brought into their permanent collection.
So make sure to check out the Pomeroy story under the sponsors tab.
And if you've been tuning in the previous two evenings, you know the concept of RAVE. For those who are just joining us, RAVE stands for Redwood Art Group Virtual Event. Thought of that myself. The purpose of RAVE is to keep our community together, connecting collectors, artists, galleries, and you. Given the incredible challenges during this pandemic, it's been tough on all of us. And it's working. In fact, just last night, two of our panelists made a connection that we hope will lead to good business for both of them.
Mm-hmm. And we are coming to you tonight from beautiful Palm Desert, California. But more importantly, we want to know where you guys are tuning in from. So head over to that right side of your screen in that chat box, and you can let us know where you're tuning in from, make comments, ask questions, or even share your favorite piece of work you've seen so far. And we will be posting each artist's booth page as we introduce them. But if you'd like to explore our other artists, make sure to open it up in a new tab so you can continue listening to us while browsing their pieces.
And there's a guest book on each booth page. The artist would love to hear from you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be embarrassed. Write comments in there. If you want an appointment with them, if you're interested in a piece, hit them up on their guest book. And when you buy from the Redwood Marketplace, remember, there's always free freight in the United States.
So sit back, grab a drink or a cocktail of choice, and enjoy the next hour.
Cheers. And by the way, before we get started, we're all wearing white tonight, and we did not plan that. Hannah just showed up wearing the same shirt. So our next discussion is Art Talk New York Stories.
So we are honored to introduce legendary artists Risk, Al Diaz, aka Samo, and Gatsby as they share their New York stories with us. From the street to the studio, catch a glimpse into the whole graffiti street and urban art movements and more.
Welcome, Risk. Welcome, Al. Hi, Gatsby.
Hello.
Make sure you've taken me off mute. I think you
I
have.
think we're all good.
I think, yeah. So I didn't dress in white, but.
That's okay,
That's okay.
Al. That's okay. Al, thanks for joining us. I know you're in the middle of a show tonight, so we appreciate you taking time out to have a quick discussion with us for the next 15 minutes. So I'm going to kick it off. When we think about the origins of the graffiti art and street art movements, we think of artists like Risk and Al Diaz and Basquiat and others. But there is a difference between street art and graffiti art. Graffiti art was a young subculture, and Al and I were just discussing this the other day. graffiti came about as a language on the walls of the street. And street art is more conceptual and is sometimes commissioned. Like if you think about the Wynwood walls in Miami, I mean, which is a major attraction every time we go down to do our shows. Thousands and thousands of people are going to Wynwood to see the walls, but there is a difference between them. Al, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, yeah, street art. I mean, one of the problems in telling that story is that it's become one kind of a big soup. You know, people throw the term and the actual work that street art, that work that represents, which is, you know, sometimes more academic, sometimes more illustration or image oriented, as opposed to graffiti culture, which is, you know, from my generation, which is the first generation of, you know, street and subway art. Well, we were graffiti was more of a sport to us, and it was about the name and the number and spreading our names and our identity, as opposed to decorating anything really, you know. So it was definitely more of a pissing contest in a sense, where it's, you know, it's ego motivated, and it's about getting your identity out there and recognized. And that's really the essence of the first string of graffiti artists. We were not, you know, a little later it would develop into a more refined way of presenting your name, but it started out, you know, fairly crudely, because you're talking about a very young culture. You know, the average, I mean, like, Risk knows from being part of Beyond the Streets that when you would enter the one of the first things you saw was a John Narr photograph of the first string of graffiti artists at a subway station on 145th Street, and there's not a mustache in the bunch. The kids are like from 9 to 14, and that was the average. I mean, I personally started writing when I was 12, and, you know, the older guys were, you know, 14. You know, that was the older guys. So, and I think it's actually historically documented that graffiti is probably the youngest art movement ever created, you know, by in the world. So it was, yeah, I mean, the idea of art wasn't predominant. That wasn't the focus, and I think that may have come a little later in the game, as we, you know, we refined or honed our signature and writing and the way that we presented, you know, what we referred to as masterpieces, which is like using more than one color or outlining your letters that represented your name. But it was, you know, it was not arts and crafts, you know. It was more an adventure for us, you know.
And you got your names from your address or buildings, or?
Get your names from, I mean, a nickname, which was, you know, sometimes you had been known since you were a kid. And sometimes we would adapt names like from comic books and just words that you liked, or something that was, you know, that a character from a movie, or something you related to, or that described you best. And numbers, for the most part, numbers in New York City graph culture were the number of your street, the number of your building, or the number of how, you know, if you were bomb one. In my case, I was bomb one, the first bomb, as opposed to bomb 159. I think there was another guy, bomb 159. And so there was generally some sort of actual significance to the number you were using. You know, Mike 171, SJK 171, those guys were from 171st Street. So the numbers had absolute meaning. Taki 183 is from 183rd Street. Taki is a nickname for the Greek Demetrius. So that's, you know, it was an actual, his family called him Taki. So these are, you know, actual, that it's not just a word that you pull out of the, you know, the air for no reason, random. And I'm speaking specifically about my generation of writers, and that's, you know, because I'm not sure that, I mean, and nowadays you see words that are just almost like made up, that I can't, in some cases, are misspelt on purpose or whatever, or phonetically spelt. And I'm not actively a member of the current graffiti culture, so I don't know where those guys are picking them or how they go about picking names. But you know, traditionally from the beginning, that's how we came to our tags. Well, what would later be called tags, because we were inventing the language. We were creating the language of graffiti, and so tag came in a little bit later. It wasn't in the first couple of years. Nobody was saying the word tag. You know?
Yeah. And Gatsby, how did you get your name?
So I loved F. Scott Fitzgerald's books, right? I loved how he took the ugliest parts of humanity and these really, you know, dark stories and made them so devastatingly beautiful. You know, because it's easy to make something that's already pretty beautiful. You know, to me, that's not necessarily art, right? Like, how do you take the things that are the ugliest parts of our society or the ugliest parts of our humanity and make them beautiful? And that's how I picked the name.
And then Risk, how about you? How'd you get your name?
My name came, I wrote Surf. My first graffiti name was Surf. I used to surf a lot. And I was at school and I was drawing on my desk, drawing waves or something. And some kid came from New York and he was like, had all these photos of subways. And he goes, what do you write? And I'm like, I don't write, I draw pictures, because I didn't know the subculture of graffiti writing. I didn't know all that shit yet. So I was like, what's wrong with you, motherfucker? I draw pictures, I don't write. And we did this the whole class. And he finally told me, like, oh, I guess my tag is Surf. And I went and stole spray paint that night. And I did a surf piece, and that was my tag. And I think I was like one of like 5 kids that surfed in that school, because it was a busing school. I went to a school I did bust into in the city. And then so I got caught really easy, super quick. And I had to change it to Risk. And my friend wrote Chance. And I thought that was the coolest name ever. Now I think it's a terrible name. But I was sitting in this room one day and I looked up and I saw the board game that said Risk. And I was like, oh, Chance, Risk, that's cool.
Right.
You took it. But then back then, I wrote Risky or Risk Rock or Is Rock or Risk. I changed it around so many different ways. And it just always came back to Risk, and then Risk stuck. And I'm thankful because I love that name now. But when I first had it, I didn't think it was a good name.
That's a great story.
That is a good story.
And Al, you've worked a little bit with Dave Navarro. We had Dave in our Rave Miami show. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got that collaboration?
I just happened to have a shirt that we were, well, he made the shirts, but the image on the shirt is a milk container, and it's things that are missing in society today. I wish I could show it. I'm gonna stand up. So here's a milk container. Can you see that? Anyway, and it says, so he asked me to actually, that was, that's part 2. Let's get to the, how I met Dave Navarro was, he had seen Jim Jarmusch's wife, Sarah Driver, made a film, a very impactful film about the life and times surrounding teenage Basquiat. And me and a bunch of other downtown people were involved, you know, doing interviews and telling the story of what New York was like and what working with Basquiat was like, et cetera, et cetera. So Dave had seen the premiere when it went to LA, and was somehow he could relate to me, and for whatever reason, and reached out to me in a DM, in a Instagram DM message, and lo and behold, I find this message, and I'm like, so is this Dave Navarro? Like, and sure enough, it was him, and he had he requested, like, you know, he'd be coming into New York, so maybe we could meet and talk about a commission, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, I was, you know, more than psyched to do that. So as a result, we ended up doing a couple of, we hit it off pretty well. Dave was a very, a genuine person. He was accessible. He was for a big star, but he was, a regular guy that you could talk to, and we shared a lot of similar experiences. And we ended up doing this collaboration with the milk. The first thing he asked was, we did more than one collaboration, but the first was he wanted to do a milk container, like the children missing milk container theme, but it was things that are missing in society. And he had asked a few different artists to fill in his milk container. He gave a print, an empty print of a milk container that he had screened or somehow generated this image. And everyone in their own style filled the milk container with things that were missing, like words, expressing what's missing in society today. And I using my subway letters, I wrote, it's tolerance, understanding, dedication, sincerity, and patience. And we kind of got a little bit of a hit with it. We did some prints, some really beautiful prints, and we pasted posters and a lot of stickers. Dave had a nice, really beautiful die cut stickers made. So they became really kind of a hit for us, and right off the bat. And then we ended up doing another collaboration later with his needle and skull and crossbones with the needle and the spoon. Where I think it was, I forgot what my message was, but it was quite beautiful as well. It was a screen print that we did.
That's great.
And we've maintained a working relationship, a good acquaintance since then.
And Risk, you worked with Dave too. How did that collaboration happen?
Dave and I had a lot of mutual friends for years throughout Hollywood, stuff like that. And then he had some of the guys in my crew come down and paint his garage, and we talked briefly here and there. And then he was a collector, and I think he got one of my pieces. And I went to his house. I saw what Al did in his house, and I saw the amazing collection he had in his house. I wanted to do something. I pinned the back of his house actually. And then since then we've just done a ton of stuff together. We're working on a ton of stuff now, and he's just a great dude. He's super fucking knowledgeable about art, which just blew me away because you're like, oh, this is Dave Navarro. What do you know about art? And I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So it's just a good dude.
Yeah, he is. And Adam, you DM'd him too and got him to be on our first program. So it's the same way, right? Just Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. I DM'd him. I thought he might enjoy one of my fake news Bibles. I gold foil Bibles with fake news instead of like holy scriptures. And he did. I sent him one of those, and then we kind of hit it off. Same as they were saying, just a really genuine, cool guy. And then invited him to be on the panel with us for Art Basel. And then we did that one, the Tom and Jerry addiction piece together with him and Padia.
Right. That's right.
Great.
So Risk, you have some cool new Buddha pieces for today's show. Tell us about them for a little bit here.
So those pieces came about when Shep Gordon commissioned me to do a piece for him, and he's a Buddhist. So I had to look into that and kind of figure a little bit about Buddhism. And I liked a lot of aspects of it. And I changed around, I made Alice Cooper eyes because he managed Alice Cooper. And then I did like chickens instead of doves because Alice Cooper, it's all this references, rock references. And then I met Ed Moses, and it was like, he's like a hero of mine. Ed Moses was the almighty because the Ferris Gallery and that whole movement, that's my whole thing, trying to continue dialogue with those guys. And I started working on some projects with Ed, and he's a Buddhist. And then he just got me into with a lot of stuff. He's like, embrace the shit that you're scared of and just, all these things. So I started doing it. I started doing these Buddhists, and I think I did one for Ed, and I think he passed away when I was working on it. And I just kind of was like, I went to the funeral. It was a beautiful Buddhist funeral, and just got caught up in it, man. It's just like, it's those pieces that I do, and I'm not a Buddhist, not practicing. I like a lot of aspects of it, but it's just something that gets me in a real tranquil feeling. Sometimes I get a little, inside my head's a little crazy sometimes. So I need to get in the studio and do these blues pieces. And kind of, that's what I do. So I went through some crazy stuff recently personally, and I had to get in the studio and I worked on the Buddha series, and it pulled me through it. And that's where they came from.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's a good story. And just like we always talk about, I mean, the stories are what sells the art, right? I mean, you know, that's what's going to sell the Buddhist pieces for you. I mean, that's a really good story.
Exactly.
And Gatsby, you're standing next to a couple big pieces. Tell us about them.
Yeah, so these are some of kind of my takes on Roy Lichtenstein's Sad Girls. This one over here is I Know How It Feels at Moments Just Like These, right? Because I think that's something that's part of the human experience that we all share, right? We all share tragedy, you know, we all share sadness over things that happen in our lives. And that's one of the gifts that art's given me, is whenever something happens that, you know, I view as a negative or that hurts me now, I think to myself, like, all right, thank you for the tragedy. I needed that for my art.
Very good. And Al, we're going to talk about your art in a little bit later in our program. And I know that you're at a show right now in New York.
Yeah.
So thanks for taking the time out. We're going to let you go, and then I'm going to show your work in a little bit and talk to the viewers about it on your behalf.
Oh, thank you so much for your consideration. I mean, that's really thoughtful of you. It's been a pleasure. I mean, we could talk for hours, but
I know.
anytime you want to have me back, we'll talk about any number of subjects.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, I want to say hello to Risk and to Gatsby, and yeah, hope to see you guys soon.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to the Shanghai thing with Beyond the Streets, and let's see what happens with that. But I appreciate you involving me with this. Thank you very much, guys.
All right, Al. Thanks. All right,
Thanks.
Gatsby.
Good luck at the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And you can check out all 3 of their artist rave booths on our rave website.
For sure. So next up, we're going to dive into some of our rave reveal artists. Each one we are featuring tonight were hand selected by a panel of curators with a focus on today's trending categories. Let's start with Impressionism.
And let's start with Samir Samoun. Samir is a Lebanese artist living in Canada who vividly recalls the colorful meditation landscapes of his childhood in his paintings. Samir has been exhibiting at Artexpo New York for many, many years and showcases his beautiful paintings capturing movement that make you feel as though you are right there. He is inspired by his world travels to New York City, Boston, Paris, and Lebanon.
It's pretty easy to see why Samir Samoun was our top pick for Impressionism. He uses relatively small, thin, yet visible brushstrokes with an open composition and an accurate depiction of light throughout his pieces. You can almost feel the sun and the wind as you look at Wheatfield Summer or the Birch's Promenade piece, which just screams fall. Same with his ocean pieces. You can feel the movement of the sea and the subtlety of the sky. Samir has been showing at Art Expo for over 25 years and continues to return each year due to his tremendous success at each show. So we always open the show to the trade on Thursday and Friday. And by Friday afternoon, Samir's booth is normally sold out. So we appreciate his business and him. And we hope that you look at his booth page. His contact information is there. And you can reach out to him if you're interested in any of the work.
And next up in the animation category, we have Chuck Jones Gallery. And Chuck Jones is the creator of Bugs Bunny and Looney Tunes. And Chuck is the most collected animation artist in history. And his art is collected around the world. Going along tonight's after party theme of NFTs, we even have an NFT piece listed under the Chuck Jones Gallery booth page.
So tonight is kind of a special night, and the Chuck Jones Gallery certainly stepped it up by offering an original piece by Chuck Jones himself titled Bugs and Bull. And you can purchase that original piece And I will tell you, it's $99,000 and probably well worth it. There's not a lot of Chuck Jones original pieces on the market. Or you can purchase the same piece as an NFT for a lot less money. There are a few prints on his booth page too, starting as low as $500. You can really see Chuck's hand in each of these pieces. And for those of you who grew up with Bugs Bunny like myself, or the Roadrunner, these are definitely pieces that'll put a smile on any collector's face and hold some really unique and cool stories. I would do my Roadrunner interpretation,
I don't
but
think we have
won't.
time for that tonight.
Be sure to stick around for tonight's after party. It's all about NFTs when Craig Cosson, who is the grandson of Chuck Jones, will talk about their first NFT.
And next up, we are going to feature the print category with Adam Nikolowitz. And Adam's primary work is sculpture art, and he actually translates some of his sculptures into amazing art prints. We've selected him for the print category, which is a category that has recently gained a lot of traction. He has shown at venues like the Real Artways, the New Britain Museum of American Art, the Stamford Museum, Grounds of Sculpture, Black and White Gallery, 5 Miles, and many more. He has mounted 14 solo shows in the United States and Europe and definitely has a conceptual and unique approach to art.
He really does. We had a chance to talk to Adam, and he's a very interesting man. So for the audience, the idea behind conceptual art is that the idea or the concept behind the work is more important than the finished product. And Adam's taken that perfectly and positioned it perfectly for consumption, meaning you can see the shovel piece here called, it's untitled, is, how much is that? $4,000. And then the piece next to it, global positioning, is a lot less money because it's a print of the sculpture, but they're really well done. And I love the soft gray background, and then it shows the sculpture just so perfectly. What else did I have on Adam?
I love that piece, Rigorous.
Oh yeah, Rigorous. It's a set of boxing gloves inside a mason jar, and you can purchase either the sculpture itself or a print. Make sure to reach out to Adam and visit his booth page to learn more about him. Watch his video. It's really interesting.
He's a very interesting man. And up next in the photography category, we have Anna Leal. And Anna, we're going to showcase her right now. She is a Brazilian photographer who pursues themes of natural environment and contemplation in her works. Inspired by minimalism, Leal pares down predominantly abstract photographs depicting stillness and structure. She uses both film and digital cameras to capture imagery, and I personally really enjoy her artwork because it's so simple yet so captivating at the same time.
Yeah, Anna starts with photographs of nature. Then she manipulates these photographs into minimalist digital pieces that really capture your attention. There's obviously some geometric structure to her work, and you can see that when you look at her booth page. Each one has geometric structure to it. She evokes different emotions through her use of color. I can totally see these pieces here where we live in Palm Springs, Palm Desert. I mean, they're very modern. They fit into this, you know, kind of our whole lifestyle here, or even Miami, right? You know, big pieces on the wall. Her work can be collected as a single piece, or you could put 3 together and create a triptych. Check out her video too. She's very entertaining, and reach out to Anna if you're interested.
Up next, we have pop artist Andrea Berthel, and Andrea has been developing her Canned Koi Cosmos series using bright pop colors as a satire to the all shiny, all too perfect, and brilliant social media world. The series aims at hiding the political or social theme behind a humorous appearance. You can see it in the fish cans from Soapy K. The signature and title is actually upside down, and the date is shown as the weight of the fish, and hashtags are added. The contrast between the koi as a sign of wealth and luxury as the opened can is set against the realistic way of painting and the highly unrealistic colors, pretending a cheerfulness which fades away when you look at the content.
You sound like such a scholar tonight.
We have some
Sopa K is, she's German. So Sopa K is like tuna fish in Germany. It'd be like our bumblebee tuna, I think, right? Yeah, something like that. So Laura, let's scroll down to canned koi celebration. This is a really good example of satire underlying messages that are hidden in Andrea's work. There's hidden meanings behind everything from the upside down label to the barcode numbers painted on the can. And to give you a little insight about that, the koi are very happy because the coronavirus has passed and they're being unleashed from quarantine. However, the number you see on the barcode is actually the amount of debt Germany held before the virus. So there's some happiness and then there's some, seriousness going on here. And pop art is based on modern culture and mass understanding in today's world events. And collecting a piece from Andrea will be like collecting a moment of history. Check out her page and notify her if you're interested.
And next up, Linda will join me and we're going to chat with the director and artist from Twist Out Cancer's Brushes program.
Hi, everyone. Great to be with you. And I'm excited to be with you to do this interview this evening. We were recently introduced to Twist Out Cancer. It's not a new organization. It was just really new to us. It's actually getting ready to celebrate its 10th year. We were intrigued because of the reach of the organization and the ingenious way they've paired creating cancer awareness with art. We're happy to announce that Twist Out Cancer is our charity partner for the RAVE events and our 2021 events going forward. So it all started out as a small grassroots online community that today reaches literally hundreds and thousands of people around the world, from the Midwest to the East Coast to Mumbai and cities of Europe and beyond. Twist Out Cancer's founder and CEO, Jenna Ben Schercher, was midway through her cancer treatment and she felt really isolated. And so she created a video of herself doing the twist. And she asked some of her friends to join her on this virtual dance floor that she had made up. And it was that power of sharing and having a support community that really benefited her. And so she wanted to share that. And that's how Twist Out Cancer was born.
And Twist Out Cancer offers a platform, tools, and community, both online and offline, for anyone touched by cancer to feel connected to a community and for many to take action. What intrigued me was their Brushes with Cancer program that matches an artist with those touched by cancer to create unique pieces of artwork reflective of their personal journey with cancer. It's a global community, and today we are going to meet and talk to two of the participants.
So please meet August Spree. August is Twist Out Cancer's Director of Programming, and Maura Matthews, one of Brushes with Cancer artists, who previously was paired with Jen Yoon and created this beautiful artwork symbolizing Jen's cancer story. And she's back again, participating in the Brushes program this year with actually a cancer surviving couple. So welcome, ladies. We're so happy to have you with us this evening. So August, let's start at the beginning. How did Twist Out Cancer really get its start and get going?
Thank you for having me. I really am so honored and excited to be here. And so first of all, I just wanted to say that, but when you just sort of touched on it, when you talked about Jenna Ben Schercher's journey and how she put out the challenge saying, that she missed dancing and she wanted people to join her on the dance floor, and received a flurry of responses of people, dancing and sending their videos. And then one step further beyond that, just to explain how the Brushes with Cancer program was sort of birthed. There was another cancer survivor, her name was Anna, and she asked for people to create a work of art that did not include a shade of gray, because at the time, in the middle of her treatment, she was only seeing shades of gray. And that created another response where people were just sending these vibrant, beautiful works of art to bring some color and some brightness to her day and to her experience. And that is how the Brushes with Cancer program was conceived, because the power of sharing what she was going through, connecting with others, and then having them sort of reflect back to her some of the beauty that can come from that situation was really healing. And that's where we got it started.
Well, we love the concept behind Brushes with Cancer, and obviously we think the connection between people and art is foundational. So Maura, can you tell us a little bit about the program and how you got involved, and what's it like working through the challenge of creating a piece inspired by someone's cancer story?
Yes, well, my name is Maura Matthews. I'm an artist outside of Philadelphia. And one of my neighbors is actually a doctor who practices medicine with David Schercher, Jenna's husband. So a couple of years ago in April, this neighbor reached out to me and said, there's this awesome program. You're an artist. Would you like to participate? And the timing was perfect. My brother-in-law actually died of leukemia in April of 2003. And so at that time, I'm often thinking about the family's experience with cancer, and I often feel like words are just inadequate for expressing support or sympathy. So I'm a hands-on person, and I jumped at this opportunity to make something tangible to honor someone's experience. And it was anything but a challenge. It was actually an amazing, uplifting experience from start to finish because of my match. I was paired with a woman named Jen Hume. She lives on the Jersey Shore, and she was diagnosed with cancer just before her 40th birthday. But before we met or spoke, she shared with me a video she had put together about her treatment. And in it, she's just gorgeous, smiling, huge support system. You can see her sense of humor coming through. So I knew right away, whatever I made was going to be very uplifting, just to honor her vitality. And then when we first spoke on the phone, she mentioned gardening and how much she missed it. It was again this time of year. So I thought of a garden as the perfect subject to celebrate her. And I don't have the painting, the full on oil painting I made, because she has it, but I do have an acrylic study just to give you a sense of the subject matter. The flowers in the foreground represent her. There's the support system behind her. The darkness is the cancer, but I really wanted the eye to go to the light, which is the hope and her faith. So this was my piece.
I love that, and I'm happy to say that as a cancer survivor, I'm now one of the inspirations for this year's Midwest program. So August, I'm curious, how are the artist and inspiration matches made? And how many do you have for each region? Because I think you're doing 3 regions for this year.
Yes, we have had the Brushes with Cancer program in multiple cities worldwide. And this year we combined into regions. And so we have our Northeast region, our Midwest region, and then our Southern region. The Northeast region and the Midwest region have already launched. So that means the matches have been made. The artists and the inspirations are currently, connecting with each other and sharing. And for total in the Midwest and the Northeast, right now, we have 137 participants. That includes artists, inspirations, and then their mentors who help guide them through the process. As far as how we match them, that's definitely my favorite part. We do accept applications that can be found on our website for those who are interested. And it asks a series of questions, not only making sure that the inspiration is open enough to be able to share their story, but also that the artist is in a position to receive that information and to listen to someone's journey. And then we do ask some questions that help us determine each person's communication style. And so we're really thoughtful. It takes quite a bit of time to go through, all of the different stats and try to match people up. And sometimes it's intuition, you know, at the end of it, after we've read everything, we're like, I think this will be a good one. And it's really fantastic. We're in the process now of getting some of those emails and notes back where people are like, how did you know this person is so amazing? And I'm so excited to, you know, be connected with them. And so that's what we're in the process of right now, as they're connecting, is hearing about, you know, the connections that they're making and how exciting that is. But the process itself, it's really our, you know, just 2 or 3 of us who comb through the applications and try to match people up as best as we can with their experience and everything else.
And how exactly is the artwork unveiled? I think I read somewhere that you guys have a gala, right?
Yes, well, pre-COVID, we definitely did. The artwork, though, we do encourage the artist and the inspiration to do sort of a private unveiling, because it can sometimes be a very private moment, and intimate in ways, depending on what the art is based on. And so we encourage them to do something prior to the gala where the inspiration is able to see the artwork before that moment. But then the gala that we used to have, of course, was, you know, centered around the artwork and the stories. Each piece of art has the story posted next to it. So you can see the inspiration story, you can see what inspired the artist, and we auction that off as well. And now we have transitioned to a virtual art gallery and gala that is just as dynamic, I have to say, and we're able to include many more people, as I'm sure you guys have experienced as well, being virtual. And so we're really excited to continue moving forward. Our program this year, our programs are larger than they ever have been because of us being able to do the virtual experience.
That's awesome. And Maura, we have some artists and collectors watching, and I'm guessing a few of them have been touched by cancer or experienced cancer themselves. So how would they get involved if they wanted to be a part of the Brushes with Cancer program?
I definitely recommend getting involved. Even in my day today, actually, I thought of a few people I spoke to, and each of them had some experience with cancer. And I was sharing with them about this program. If you go to twistoutcancer.org, as an artist, they have the applications right there on the homepage. Like August said, the Northeast and Midwest regions are underway right now, but there are still applications coming in for the Southern region. So if you're interested in that as an artist, you can apply. And if you're a collector, look in the fall for those virtual art shows in the Northeast and Midwest. And like August said, this is a global operation now, so you can participate from anywhere in the world as an artist or a collector.
So we're so thrilled to be partnered. And I'm excited about my experience with the Brushes program, but also to see what comes out of it this year. So for everyone watching, check out the Twist Out Cancer partner page on the RAVE website. And there you'll also be able to see August's story unfold in a great work. There it is right behind her. Great work of art by Elliot Frum. So thank you, ladies. Great to be with you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Good night. So let's dive into a few more RAVE reveal picks. We're going to start with abstract art, and we have Julie Schumer and James Koskinis to feature. And James and Julie make up 1228 Parkway Art Space. The couple resides in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and they paint side by side in close proximity. Their works are wildly different, yet equally powerful in their own way. Occasionally, they collaborate on a painting, with Schumer providing an abstract backdrop and Koskinis using that as the basis for his portrait.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, Hannah. There's definitely a difference in their work. I would even say Julie's a little more of an abstract artist compared to James. James' work is abstract with a heavy figurative emphasis. Both of their works are extremely powerful and intriguing. I can't wait to see James and Julie again at one of our live events, because when hung side by side, their pieces complement each other very well.
Mm-hmm.
They always do really well in Santa Fe, and we got to get them to Miami. Oh, they were in Miami.
Yeah, it's very powerful to see their pieces together. They're really amazing.
Great work.
And up next, we have street and urban artist Al Diaz, also known as Samo, who we just spoke with. And He is best known for his collaboration with Basquiat, as you heard earlier in our discussion, the New York Stories Art Talk. His graffiti has appeared in Lower Manhattan from 1978 to 1979, and Samo is known for its wit and sarcastic humor and became globally recognized after Basquiat's rise to fame.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Al's current work brings the graffiti movement forward, but his work is actually translated into urban art because of his use of mixed media and messaging behind the pieces. Much like the piece Forgotten Names. And we got to talk to Al the other day about this piece specifically, and he told us a good story about it, where the letters are derived from New York City signage, and the forgotten names are a reflection of his family. And if you really look at the image, the two figures in the lower right corner represent his parents, and you don't see their faces or anything because they were getting older and they were kind of fading away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how he painted them in this piece. He also makes a cameo appearance in this piece with one of his arrests from doing graffiti on the street and highlighting the more difficult times in his life. But it was an honor to get to talk to Al and meet, one half of Samo, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how cool is that?
It definitely was. So make sure to check out Al's booth. And next up, we are going to feature landscape artist Philip Gagnon, and he is the assistant to the Bishop of the Domestic Mission in Alberta, Canada. Philip aspires to inspire and encourages others to see the beauty in everything around us. His mentor is also the renowned Hawaiian oil painter, Roy Tabora, and you can find Philip listening to music, painting, and enjoying an Irish whiskey. Exactly how it should be.
Yeah, really. We got to speak with Philip a couple months ago, and you can definitely see the Hawaiian influence in many of his paintings. It's a funny story. Philip had gone into a gallery over in Maui, where I had a gallery at one time, and started speaking to the gallery director, who asked, and Philip wanted to show him his pieces. And as every gallery director does, during the time when they're open, they're trying to sell art. They're not trying to buy art, but so the guy said, okay, go ahead and show me a couple of your pieces. And he was totally enthralled and asked Philip to bring some pieces back to the gallery, which he did. And then the gallery owner introduced him to Roy Tabora, and Philip he goes over once or twice a year and spends 7 to 10 days painting with Roy in his studio. What a great collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a cool story. Look at the piece Tranquility. The moon is rising, and Philip has certainly captured the reflection perfectly on the open sea. It's so well done, it almost looks like a photograph. Good job, Philip. Check out his booth page.
And in the sculpture category tonight, we have Alexis Silk. And Alexis received her BFA from the School of Art Institute of Chicago and has devoted herself full-time to creating figurative art in hot sculpted hand-blown glass. Technically, Alexis pushes boundaries of what's possible. Sculpting freehand while the glass is hot on the blowpipe, she creates figures that are truly larger than life. And Alexis's work is featured in the best galleries in Italy, London, Macau, and across the United States, as well as in many, many private collections around the world.
Well, it's easy to see why we picked Alexis for our sculpture category. Working with glass is very, very difficult. It's free-flowing and constantly moving. Gravity is pulling it towards the ground, while the glass blowers are continually turning and working with the glass all the time. The blowpipe comes out of the oven, and Alexis literally has 4 or 5 other helpers working with her simultaneously, creating a sculpture piece by piece. It's like a ballet. It has to work perfectly in order for the piece to come out without any mistakes. Alexis has been participating in our fairs for well over 10 years and is known for her numerous red dots at every show. I encourage you to write in a guest book and collect one of her pieces.
And last but certainly not least, we have realism, and we are going to feature Duke Windsor. And Duke really is a true Renaissance man. He's been a drill sergeant. He's served in the Marine Corps. He's a freelance illustrator and amateur rodeo cowboy competing in bull riding, bareback, and steer wrestling. He has studied classical voice at the San Diego Opera Chorus. He holds rank of 4th degree black belt and continues to be an active singer-songwriter, guitar player, and solo performer. I'm out of breath from reading everything that he does, but he's also a talented painter, and we've had the pleasure of getting to know Duke over the past few months during our RAVE events.
Seriously, I don't know how he does all that. Personally, I love Duke's work. He's a delightful gentleman, and for those of you who have been to San Diego, you can see how he has captured sunlight in his piece, Golden Sunrise Alley. The colors he uses in the painting really capture the beauty of the California sun. I remember Duke telling us about the inspiration behind these pieces. He was walking down towards the beach and the sun hit perfectly, and he ran back home and grabbed his camera, photographed the images, and then reproduced them into paintings. Another side note, his hamburger paintings, I can tell you kind of the thought process behind that. If you go to a museum and you see the old still lifes, they'd have a fish and a knife and a wood cutting board, and people would paint still lifes. Well, Duke kind of liked those still lifes, but he was thinking of a hamburger and he thought, I'm just going to put the whole still life together into one thing. So he took the lettuce and the tomato and the sauce and the hamburger and the bun and painted the whole thing. And they're absolutely fantastic paintings. One of my favorites.
Mine too.
He's cooking the ingredients there. So check out Duke's page and, purchase a piece.
Mm-hmm. And that is it for our RAVE reveal section. So be sure to check out all of the artwork from today's artists and all of our RAVE exhibitors, from innovative galleries to today's top independent artists. Have a personal visit with them by arranging an appointment from the guest book, and come back again and again because they will be up all throughout the month of May. And it was great being with you all for the last 3 evenings, and we hope you had fun hearing about the inspirations and journeys and exploring the artist studios with us.
We'll be back with another RAVE in June. So watch the website and our social media for details. It'll be RAVE Focus on Austin, Texas, where Hannah lives, June 24th, 25th. We'll be stepping into some of Austin's liveliest scenes and visiting with artists across the globe. We'll see you then, and thanks for joining us. Now it's after party time. I think you should stick around. The topic is WTF are NFTs.
So is it a craze? Is it the real deal? What are NFTs anyway? Should we even care? So we're joined this evening with Craig Cosson of Chuck Jones Gallery, John Stock of Corridor, Gary Simmons, editor-in-chief of The Licensing Letter, and we're going to ask these industry professionals a few questions and dive deeper into the crypto world as we explore this new platform of buying and selling. So first of all, thank you all for joining us, and I say we dive right into it. So Gary, we're really talking about two things here, digital art and NFTs. So can you kind of let the audience know the difference between the two of them?
Sure, yeah, the art obviously is the piece created by the artist, but the difference between digital art and say a painting that you do with your hands is that you can more easily copy a piece of digital art. And that has created the issue that it's difficult to create that aura of scarcity around a piece of digital art. And so the techies out there in the world, of which I kind of am one, I don't create NFTs, just to be clear, but I worked in the tech world. And they've created something called the non-fungible token. Now, if anybody follows cryptocurrency, they'll know that that things like Ethereum or Bitcoin can be traded back and forth because they're all identical. Think of a dollar bill. They're all, except for the serial number, they're all identical. So you can use them as currency and you can buy things and they're all worth the same amount. A non-fungible token is the opposite of that. It's completely unique, and it's used to identify a piece of digital art, usually as the original. So for example, when we were kind of going over this topic before, I talked about how I stupidly owned the Batman 2 comic, Batman #2, which today is worth a fortune. And then I traded away for more comic books. But if I had Batman #2 today in a digital format, The only way I could prove that it was sort of the original Batman #2 is with an NFT. So, for example, take a painting like the Mona Lisa. It's got a physical form. You can prove its authenticity, and you can prove it's the first one. It's more difficult to do that with a digital piece of art. So NFTs essentially create that record that a person purchasing that art owns the very first copy.
Well done.
Mhm.
Good explanation.
It
So
was.
John, what's the deal with the Beeple piece, the NFT that sold for $69 million? Who bought it? And why pay $69 million for 5,000 digital pieces of art? Heck, you're on mute.
That's gonna, okay, we've worked through our technical issues now, hopefully. So yeah, yes, this is a very fascinating time to be in the world, and the title of this talk, I think you could also do WTF is Beeple and what in the world is going on in this world. So yeah, so that particular purchase and auction through Christie's, that was bought by a gentleman by the name of Vignesh Sundaresan, I believe is the correct pronunciation of his name. Apologies if I've messed it up a little there. He also goes by Metakoven in the digital worlds. And he's a crypto investor and entrepreneur and collector. And I listened to some of why his logic around why he purchased this particular piece. And for him, it's kind of a few different things that lead into it. So one is that he does believe that this is kind of a new era in art history, that there's a shift into this new medium of digital first artworks and digitally native artists, and that there's this coming world of sort of where we're more digital and more things are virtual, and so these types of assets and this new medium will matter a lot kind of going forward. And this particular piece, with the level of notoriety around it and the fact that it's one of the biggest and kind of the first large NFT artworks that was purchased, he thinks that's valuable in and of itself. And then he also says that he believes in art patronage, that there's, buying works of art like this do support artists and are, critical for keeping these new creatives and these new mediums actually solvable, and keeping them afloat, so to speak. And then, so the price tag on this one was really high. And nobody knew going into it how much it was ultimately going to be sold for. And this was certainly on the higher end of everybody's expectations. And we can talk a little bit about, kind of the breakdown of this auction itself and the monies that exchanged hands. And then, maybe the core value of digital art or of art in general. So this particular, this piece was it was 5,000 digital works ultimately that were purchased for the $69 million. And, if you divide that out, you get 5,000 artworks at 69 million bucks. It's, 13 grand or so for for any individual piece there, which maybe isn't that out of, the realm of normalcy for a value of a piece of art that you love. I think another interesting kind of concept to play with here is ultimately what is, valuable within the arts and collectibles world. And Gary did a great job touching on some of these ideas around scarcity and authenticity, being able to verify that there's a unique digital asset. I think that is one of the components that feeds into what makes art valuable, and collectibles in general valuable. I think there's some other intangibles that go along with the value of these things as well. Things like notoriety or cultural impact or significance. I mean, that Batman comic that, and by the way, I really wish you and I had figured out a way to sell that, earlier on. I would have taken that off your hands way earlier. But yeah, that particular piece it's so valuable because of its cultural impact and its significance. And think about the entire, Batman world that's evolved, and, the film franchises and the video games and how important his characters become. And so there's a lot of the value of art and collectibles that really is intangible. There's not a physical thing. If we take that Mona Lisa piece, that the actual physical side of that is, you know, a couple $100 of paint and canvas and wood. After that, everything else is intangible. It's about, you know, culturally, what do we believe about it that gives it its value? And so I think that is some of the thoughts that I have around that particular auction and its value and where the world's headed.
Well, it was very fascinating for sure. And Craig, is this just a trend as an art collector or an artist? Why should I care about NFTs?
Well, a trend. I mean, since we talked a bit, you know, trends are. We don't know if it's a fad. I think is really what some people are. Is this like, you know, a flash in the pan? Is it all going away? And you know, I've only been in the art world for 30 years, and it's never been the same. And so, you know, I'm a computer engineer by training. I was in the computer world. I got sucked into a family business to automate the company. You know, when I came out of school, I worked in some of the very early graphic display systems, developing them. So there's an evolution. I think more in, I'm trying to watch the trend of what is digital in our world, and how is there a digital trend, and how does that dovetail now into the world that I've immersed myself into of the art business, you know, and you know, physically going out to art expos for years. I mean, we were out there in the 80s and the 90s in New York and other art shows, and that physical, tangible opportunity to show somebody. But looking through all of it, how does the digital world that is really evolving exponentially? I'm gonna look back what I did in the late 80s into the early 90s, thinking that we were like on the bleeding edge of technology with, you know, 83, 86 processors and you know, 10 megs of RAM and 25 megahertz of processing power. And then, you know, cresting into the 90s and continuing to, as it evolves, that you know, 10 years ago, a smartphone was really just a nothing. I mean, no one knew what was coming. An iPad didn't exist. The technology of things, you know, so, you know, 3 years ago, there was probably only an inkling of what was coming last year. And certainly when everything got pushed into a virtual like this is, you know, this is a two-dimensional virtual experience that we're having because we've had to. And, you know, in that time, I had no idea. I'd heard of augmented reality. I'd heard of virtual reality. You know, my kids played or play video games. And all of a sudden, you know, as things have crested over this last year, that sort of what is melding between physical reality and a virtual and augmented reality, that the digital parts of what we do, you know, sometimes you don't even know. I mean, I'm on my phone and all of a sudden I can see things what look like they are physically in front of me, yet they're not when you look behind. That augmented reality capability is just coming together. So, you know, when I first came into the art business, the idea was, what is art? You know, and I remember having long conversations with you, Eric, at Art Expo and walking the shows and seeing the young artists and the experienced artists and the longtime artists and all the education and everything. And what is it? It's that story. It's the experience that the collector, you know, and my mother started this business 43 years ago, and it was find the art and put it in the home of someone who loves it. How it gets there, it doesn't really matter. So the idea of experiencing that work of art and thinking digitally and seeing the evolution of digital is what we're starting to see, is that an artist may have a new playground to play in digitally, in addition to doing something physically. Because I know a lot of our artists that we publish work digitally to begin with. They don't want to put a brush to canvas until either they get it approved because of the licensing things that we have to go through, but they do it digitally. And so, for me to think about how they worked, and I think one of the things you mentioned, Gary, before was your latest book and your digital writing, and you didn't put pencil or pen to paper. But if in an authenticated way, it were something that I were interested in, or because you're a renowned book author, that to see that digital, composition that you had, the original one before the editor got a hold of it, before your second and third. And then through this last days, I was thinking, well, what if I could see from the very beginning, it logged every change that you made, and I got to experience the way your mind works. And the same way a digital artist in like a Photoshop thing where it logs every part of history, and you could replay that digitally, even if you didn't have the physical thing. So there's not only the 3 dimensions that we're talking about, it's that 4th dimension of time and the development of it that can be captured in so much of this digital world. So is it a trend? I think it's an augmentation to what is already here. And time will tell whether or not anybody cares in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. But I believe that the trend of the melding of a digital world with the physical world is only to get more robust. So I'm excited to see what an artist can do with these new technologies. So I'm enthusiastic about what I'm going to see later this year and next year and beyond. So there you
I
go.
will say that if somebody wants to pay me $69 million for my first draft, I'm perfectly willing to go there.
That's great. But it needs an NFT.
I'll do an NFT, even though I'm not their biggest fan.
So,
Excellent.
yeah, you kind of compare it to like, even Andy Warhol making the soup cans in the 60s, and, and people were considering it art, and digital art could be the same thing. People are going to look at it for 10 years and all of a sudden it's going to take off, or it could take off in 12 months or 6 months, who knows? So John, say I get interested in purchasing digital art. What do I need to enter the digital art collector's world? Tell us about buying a wallet, because that's where you store it, right? And then what's gas?
Yeah, so this particular topic of the evening, I'm going to do a very high level overview, and I'm going to caveat all of this with saying that that there's some good research that you as a collector should do to figure out your particular needs, your use cases, the artwork that you're interested in, where it's located, making sure you're being cautious and staying safe around the right types of platforms that you're transacting with, the right type of wallet that you get, etc. So caveats aside, and also we could do this entire talk plus an hour on just the ins and outs of possible ways to navigate this world. So we're going to keep it real short for you though. So the high level, really what you need are 3 things. One is cryptocurrencies. So those are the actual funds that you're going to be using to buy these digital artworks as a general rule. And then you're going to need a wallet of some sort. And then you're going to need to be, you need to find a platform that you're going to transact with. So where your artist has works for sale. So the highest level, that's kind of what we're operating with. So to get cryptocurrencies, there's a myriad ways. Kind of the simplest version of people that are wanting to jump in and sort of begin exploring is to start with one of the exchanges like Coinbase or Binance. And that's where you can take your dollars, your fiat currency, and transition that into some form of digital currency. So Ethereum or Bitcoin are 2 of the main types. And then once you've got cryptocurrencies, having a wallet is the other part of it that to very simply put what a wallet is and kind of how it works. A wallet is essentially your way of transacting with the blockchain protocols. So instead of a wallet, you've got your public key and a private key, and that's basically your way to like authenticate and transact within these places. So to trade Ethereum for an NFT, you're going to need a wallet to do that. And then that's also what's essentially your interface into the blockchain backend. So the types of wallets that exist, there's what are known as hot wallets. and cold wallets. Hot wallets are internet connected, digital primarily, and then cold wallets are a different type that are a physical device usually. And once you've got cryptocurrencies in a wallet that's able to support NFTs, you can go on a journey of exploration into a bunch of different types of platforms that are out there. OpenSea is an example. Lots of different artists are there. There's a company called Foundation is another example where a lot of great artists are having their stuff. Soon Corridor will be a place that you'll go as well to explore this world of digital artworks and NFTs. And so that's kind of the nuts and bolts of getting into the space. Again, make sure you're being cautious and taking care to do good research and keep yourself out of trouble. And then let's talk a little bit, I think you had a question about gas, which is everybody's favorite topic, I'm sure. Without boring you all with the technical details, gas is essentially a way that the Ethereum machine runs on gas. It's the fuel for the engine, so to speak. So every time you're doing a transaction, there's going to be certain operations that have to occur. And each of those operations has some amount of Ethereum required to perform the operation. And that's essentially what gas is. So gas fees fluctuate. The cost associated with doing a transaction fluctuates based on the price of Ethereum at any given point in time. So you may have some transaction that you're trying to do that at one moment in time costs $50 and at some other moment in time costs $1. And it really is just dependent on the price of Ethereum and how complex that transaction is.
Wow.
Tried not
Hey,
to be too technical, but
Eric, I saw your head explode. That's awesome. I love it.
I was going to do an animated version of this,
Yeah.
turn that into an NFT eventually.
We can do
so
that
it's gonna be
later.
a little
That's
song
good.
and dance. Yeah.
I like it.
So-
Oh my goodness.
Gary, the last, well, everybody who's reading about NFTs or Ethereum or the blockchain, and it's obviously requiring a lot of energy to create these things. And every other day you're reading about an environmental impact study on cryptocurrency, right? So why don't you just give us a couple-minute brief on that and how it's affected our environment?
Yeah, and this is why I kind of feel like I was brought on the panel because I'm the giant wet blanket. I'm the guy that's going to rain on the NFT parade, And one of the reasons, I have more than one, but one of the reasons is the impact on power consumption and the environment, and particularly on global warming. And I write a lot about that. The novel that Craig had mentioned is based on the issues of global warming and how it affects our society. So I've done years of research on this, and I've been researching NFTs. And when you take a look at cryptocurrencies, and all NFTs are based on a cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, for example, uses about roughly 115 terawatts of power. And not everybody knows what a terawatt is. I didn't either, but it's about 1 trillion watts for an hour. So it's a lot of power. It's roughly 1/12 of all the wind and solar energy produced in the world annually, 1/12. It's also about 0.5% of all the electricity used by everyone on Earth, and that's just Bitcoin alone. And if Bitcoin was a country, it would be using the same amount or a little bit more electricity than Norway. So it's and it's not the only cryptocurrency. If you take all of them together, of course, it uses more power. Ethereum and Bitcoin together would be, if there are countries, would be the 26th highest consuming country in the world for electricity. So you're talking about a serious amount of power. And at a time when we are bending heaven and earth, trying to reduce our use of electricity, trying to reduce our use of power, and converting everything over to renewables, we are using a significant amount of that power to indulge in cryptocurrencies. So this is why I'm not personally using cryptocurrencies, and I've never invested in them, although I know a fair bit about it. So when you take a look at that, put it against the value, right? So right now, all of that power is being used for about the 100 million people that use cryptocurrencies. 100 million. But there's 7.8 billion people on Earth. Take that figure, that 0.5% times 78, and you start understanding how.
Uh-oh.
Was that me? He ran out of power.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, Craig, that was really funny.
Oh, Gary,
Oh,
come on
that's
back.
rough.
Come
I
on
think
back.
That's all right. You
Yeah.
explained
Well,
it.
while we're waiting for Gary to come back, and I don't want to negate or
Well,
there.
oh,
Oh, go.
did I
You're
conk out there
back.
for a second? You all look frozen.
Yeah,
Go ahead. You're back. Go ahead.
Okay, so one of the issues too is that, and I will say this in behalf of the cryptocurrencies, Ethereum, for example, is doing more to reduce their power consumption than say Bitcoin. And it already uses less. I mean, if you take a look at it, probably less than 1/10 of the amount of power that Bitcoin uses. So it would use about, I believe it's about, let's see, about 38.72 terawatts. So about a third of what Bitcoin is using right now. And they are planning to change the way that they generate Ethereum to reduce the power even more through a new system that they're developing called Casper. So that's all great, but I kind of being a journalist for so long, I'm kind of the believe it when I see it school, and my personal involvement with NFTs or cryptocurrencies would wait until I see that they're sustainable for the planet.
Well put.
Mhm.
Well put.
And I think that is a serious concern for collectors. I mean, it's all fun until Greta Thunberg shows up. And then all of a sudden, you're all over social media, and you're very unpopular, and that painting you bought is causing you all kinds of trouble, and the government regulators are cracking down on your NFTs. So I think there are some things that could come about over the next year or two that are going to dampen the enthusiasm for NFTs and cryptocurrencies both.
All right, well, we have 2 minutes left. Does anybody, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, what are your predictions for the future? I mean, you all have such different, inputs on NFTs.
Sure. I'd love to kick
ahead,
it off,
John.
and I'll try not to use all 2 minutes, but feel free to cut me off, and I'm happy to go over time as well. But so actually, to Gary's point there, I think people are well aware that there are these are very, very early days, and there's lots of opportunities to create better systems to just what Ethereum's doing and their goal of switching to a different less energy intensive system. So there's other things that are in the works. More and more of the proof of work systems are actually going to be moving to renewable energies. Already about 40% of crypto mining is actually done off of renewables energy resources. And so I think that will increase. I think it will become more efficient. And then I think broadly, because it's such early days, there will be a lot of opportunities for things to get less friction filled. So it'll be smoother, it'll be easier. You'll be able to transact more quickly with more people. I think you'll see wider adoption. And then I think we're seeing a transition, as Craig was referencing earlier, to more and more of our life being lived in this combination virtual and digital and physical. And as more of our time is spent in virtual environments and mini metaverses like this one that we're in, we're going to have more types of digital items and digital assets that matter. So I think the art and collectible space is a fantastic NFT use case. And then I think over time, more and more items, physical goods like shoes, and other fashion related things start to have an NFT component to them as well.
Yeah, I have to agree that I believe that the smart people that develop this may have not thought about how the impact of it may, and the environmental things. But I on that side, I do believe that there will be an economic shift that will change that, and I think it will clean itself. Right now, there's what, $2 trillion of cryptocurrency value sitting out there, and there's enough to make it interested to how do we solve, here's a problem, how do we solve it? And so at least that's my hope and belief, and in smart people and people who care. As far as the art world, to enjoy a digital something, has always been a concern, because, okay, I can put it here and I can put it there and I can duplicate it 1 billion times and it's around, everybody enjoys the Mona Lisa copy. But, if all of a sudden there is a way with this intelligence for me or an artist or to create something and say, because digital is my world, I can't paint, I can't draw, I certainly not of anything that anybody wants to collect. But if there is something that is in my digital forefront that I create or am interested in providing, and somebody enjoys it, or an artist creates it and then somebody wants to enjoy it, that there is now a way to digitally authenticate. And so that, I think, is where the excitement comes. That I think, I think of a 3-dimensional sculpture and an augmented reality of me being able to know that this is the one. It's got that little that little check mark on it, like on Twitter. That that's authentic. That's the one, not a copy. We can all enjoy a copy, but to know that it's that one, and I don't know a year from now whether or not I'm going to be having contact lenses like I have that have an augmented reality component to it. I don't know. I don't think I'll go there, but who knows where this virtual reality, augmented reality is going. So yeah, Gary.
Yeah, well, I guess it's my nature to be skeptical in general, and I'm pretty skeptical about the future of NFTs. Not that I think they're going to disappear, and certainly not this year or next year, but I think there's going to be some big highs and some devastating lows as this sector develops. And that's not just because of the climate change part. I mean, the climate activists are definitely circling the wagons. They're painting big bullseyes on NFTs and cryptocurrencies right now, believe me, because I hear from them. But there's other things as well that make it difficult. And one of them is going to be, is that scarcity real or not? Because there are people who are already applying NFTs to artworks they do not own. For example, that's one problem that's happened quite a bit in the art world already. I do see perhaps a bigger role in the licensing world, which is where I play. I'm the editor of the licensing letter. And so that's kind of where I spend all my time. And, we had spoken earlier about this possibility that as we create these digital worlds that Craig spoke of, we can do things like create digital real estate, which a lot of people in the NFT world are talking about. So for example, a clothing company like Zara could go into a digital world, whether it's a video game or something like it, and they could buy real estate and have a store in downtown fake world in a prime location where people can buy stuff, for their characters or their avatars in this world. That kind of thing is happening already. So, places like Roblox, even the boring kind of games that I play are doing these kinds of things. So I think NFTs are going to have a place, but they're going to have to solve a lot of problems, as are the cryptocurrencies themselves, before this really becomes standardized. The cryptocurrencies have other problems in the sense that governments are not that wild about the nature of transactions that make it so easy to transfer huge amounts of money. By the way, I was a crime reporter and investigative reporter for about 24 years. I used to track drug gangs and money laundering all over the Caribbean, Europe, you name it. And in the later days, around 2008 and onwards, as cryptocurrencies emerged, we were tracking money laundering going on. And believe me, that is going to happen in the art world as well. How better to transfer, say, $20 million to someone than to say, oh, hey, here's this artwork, I really want it. Here's 20 million, I have the NFT, and you have the 20 million I needed to launder. Money laundered. If you think governments are not going to come down on that, you're kidding yourself. They are. Absolutely.
Well,
I
that's-
guess the only caveat to that would be, and you're obviously in the midst of it, but there's a lot more trackability in the blockchain for who it is. It may be
Yes.
blind, but there is trackability there. That's the whole idea behind it. So if
That's true.
if I'm laundering, you know, I've now signed it and said, this is what I've done. And my stick figure is not worth 20 million. So you're right.
There's a
It's
funny
gonna come
story
back.
about a drug guy who got nailed just for that exact thing, because he kind of forgot about the anonymity part. And so they tracked it through the blockchain and got him, right? But
Yeah, right.
but in any
So
case, yeah,
it'll be interesting to see where it goes. But that I like.
Absolutely.
I hadn't thought about that. It'll be interesting to see how that works. So anyway, Eric.
Well,
Anna?
we have another rave event in June, and if things progress like they are now, we'll call all of you back and do another discussion, because I'm sure people would love to hear about it. I want to thank you all for coming, Craig, John, and Gary. Appreciate it very much. And
thanks for the
your
invite.
insight has
Great to
been
see
great.
y'all. Thank
Very
you.
Good fun.
for
With pleasure.
the
Thank you.
opportunity.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Good night,
Stay
everyone.
safe.
And just so you guys know, the Rave booths will be up throughout the month of May, so you can continue looking at them, writing in their guest book, and browsing their pieces.
Oh, Laura has something.
Yeah. We had so many people tonight. Again, thank you so much. We had people from Kingston, Jamaica, Andrea from Germany, Kita from Alberta, Canada, Amy from Dubai, and TJ from Valencia, California. So anyway, thank you guys so much for talking to us in the chat and letting us know how we're doing. And yeah, thanks.
That's awesome.
Thank
Good job,
you guys
Laura.
so much. Everyone have a great weekend and a great night.
Good night.